my name is Ruth Ann. And I am a grandmother who learned to keep going when all the going felt like uphill. People think the hardest thing I ever did was stop paying the mortgage on a house that wasn't mine. They wrong. The hardest thing I ever did was learn the quiet way to tell someone you love, I know my worth. Sit down and hear it. I could start with the day I took a pen and refused the numbers that had ruled me. But that would be like walking into a movie 10 minutes before the end and pretending you earned the tears. So listen to the first steps my life took. The way a river begins thin, stubborn, and sure of where it's headed, even when the map laughs. I was born to a river town that never made postcards. The bridge there wore rust freckles. The factory coughed gray every Monday at 6. Our porch had tomatoes growing in coffee cans, and the screen door had the kind of slap that means you re-home. Mama taught me that the word ours is a roof when a storm doesn't care who you are. My father was a pipe fitter, with shoulders like a barn beam and a laugh that made even the Friday whistle feel polite. I learned early that life doesn't keep time with your wishes. The factory blew the summer I turned 11. A valve got stubborn. A man cut a corner. One boom. Then another, like someone dropping a chest of drawers down the stairs of heaven. We walked to the school gym under a sky that had burned the blue right off itself. They laid the men under sheets thin as apology. Mama made a sound I never heard before and have never heard again. Something like prayer and like fabric tearing. And we walked home with a widow's silence that wouldn't let go of our coats. You think grief is loud? It is. But after the first week, grief goes quiet. It sits on your shoulder and breathes with you. I learned numbers before I got to novels. I learned what past due looked like, in red ink that leaked into your sleep. Mama took the diner's morning shift and the laundry's night shift. I became the kind of girl who walked into rooms like the floor might crack if she smiled too wide. We kept the house on Crowell Street with stubborn love. Sometimes that was all the bank would accept. I remember the banker's tie more than his face. He didn't say you're kind, but the room. Heard it anyway? Mama's hands shook when she signed. Mine learned right then to read twice, sign once, and keep a copy. We got through those years the way you survive winter, one pot of soup at a time. One little kindness at a time. Mr. Santos left a sack of potatoes on our steps without knocking. The church lady slipped an envelope full of quiet money into Mama's purse with more grace than any preacher's sermon. I learned to be grateful in ways that didn't bend my neck too far. I met my first husband, Frank, at a church picnic. He had warm hands, which is rarer than you think, and a way of fixing things that made broken items sit up straighter. He once took apart a radio like it had insulted him and put it back together like he taught it to say please. He looked at me like morning looks at a window. We married under buzzing church lights, ate a sheet cake with the wrong spelling, and laughed when the getaway car wouldn't start. If all our money could fit inside a shoe, so could our happiness. 2 babies came. Daniel first, with a serious mouth and eyes that asked the world for an honest answer, then Rose, who giggled at shadows and made friends with every moth. Those early days smelled like oil and bread and baby powder and fatigue so deep it felt holy. Mama got sick. The kind of sick that hides and waits for you to put on your good shoes. The hospital light grew brighter until it felt rude. We paid what we had and then what we didn't. I sold my best dishes too. A woman who liked functional beauty, I wanted to ask her if grief had ever functioned for her. It sure did for me. Frank had a temper like a match hot, bright, brief and hands like a blessing. He took work where he could find it. He taught Daniel how a wrench, turned right, is a kind of music. He taught Rose how to tape a box so its secrets stayed put. Then a ladder slipped under November wind and wet leaves. I can say 12 feet with my mouth, but the distance I fell without him was a lifetime. The doctor said head trauma like we were discussing the weather. I learned to live in a library of quiet. I wore 3 jobs like a coat in a storm. Diner at dawn, office cleaning at dusk, sewing in a back room that smelled like hot cloth, and the prayers of women who counted quarters in tins. I kept the mortgage in a folder under the sink and patted it like a baby. Some months I fed it first. Some months I made it wait while I fed the children. I don't call that heroism. Call it Tuesday. Daniel took to school like someone who had been promised an answer and was determined to collect. He lined up his pencils. He read about economics like it was a love letter from the future. He saved every paper with an A, like a soldier saves letters from home. Rose learned to draw hands, called knuckles hills and palms maps. I raised them to leave. That is a strange kind of love, the kind that is also a lesson in loneliness. We saved for Daniel S. college with a coffee can under the sink that said tuition on a strip of tape. I fed that can $5 at a time and felt taller every time I did. When the acceptance letter came, I pressed it to my chest and could feel the paper breathing. He left on a hot August day. We waved at his bus until it turned the corner, and then we waved at the empty road because love makes fools and doesn't he apologize. He called from payphones with a careful voice that made me want to knit him a warmer week. He met a girl named Caroline with hair that belonged in a commercial and a watch that cost my stove. She came from a city where doormen loved you, as long as your tip was correct. She was nice in the way people are nice when they dantee, yet understand that your mother cleans the floors their shoes forget. I met her in my kitchen in October. She called my kitchen quaint, which is what people say when they might have loved it if the story had been different. They married under chandeliers that looked like upside-down ice storms. Caroline's mother, Evelyn, wore pearls that had never met a day without a plan and a smile that knew price tags by heart. She shook my hand like it was a borrowed pen. She told me how lucky Daniel was, and I agreed because I would agree with any sentence that began with my boy's name. She said, then, word standards the way some people say branch of government. I nodded. You can survive a forest if you know how to nod at trees. They bought a house that was more statement than shelter columns with opinions. A lawn that looked freshly ironed. Windows that never needed to apologize for anything. The bank liked my name. I had the kind of credit that lights warmed at night. I helped with the down payment. I read the mortgage twice, signed it once, and put a copy in the folder under my sink. Sometimes life feels like a circle, and sometimes it's a spiral that got its work boots on. Then came the night with too much glass. The party smelled like lilies and money breathing through its nose. The windows reflected people back to themselves, like they were art. I wore the best dress I could afford and shoes that taught my toes manners. Evelyn took my arm like everything in her life should be escorted. She told me Daniel was thriving. She was not wrong. Daniel can stand anywhere and find the ceiling. We VA worked hard to bring him into the right circles, she said. Social structures, dear. Class 1 can love across it, of course. But one must understand it. I said, I understand comfort. I built it. With my hands, she smiled without moving her eyes. You must realize you are not exactly their class. The music did not stop. No one gasped. The room kept being its polished self. That's the thing about certain kinds of meanness. They know how to find a soft voice and a clean napkin. I didn't cry in the bathroom. I ate a stuffed mushroom and thought about interest rates. Then I went home, made tea that tasted like forgetting, and didn't forget. I took out the mortgage for their big house, the one with my name tucked inside like a backbone, and read it until the numbers told me the truth. They always tell when you stare long enough. I had been paying to keep their light warm. I had been keeping the cold out of rooms that didn't have a chair for me. I slept like a string pulled tight across a violin. In the morning, it rained, not dramatic, just honest. I looked out at the river. I touched the cool window. I held the word hours in my mouth until it dissolved. Then I picked up my pen, set it down elsewhere, and stopped paying the mortgage. Revenge cooked quick tastes raw. I didn't go around telling people. I just moved what I used to send to that house into places with my name on the door. A trust at the credit union, a college. Fund for Henry, my grandson, with a bar cry, and Judge Isa Little. Count with a boring name that spelled the word safety. I did it with the calm of someone who has learned to make Tuesday carry a family. The letters came. Windowed envelopes with red stamps that think they re-important. The bank called in a voice that put politeness on like a suit. Ms. Weaver, they said, your payment is past due. My what? I asked, soft as butter left on the counter. It's the Oak Ridge property. My name sits on that. It's true, I said. But my name is not a servant. It comes and goes as I allow. Please update your files to reflect that the woman who built the credit this house eats by will not be paying until further notice. People do not know what to do when an old woman says a sentence like that. You could hear the bank man blinking. He said words like delinquent and repercussions in a voice that pretended we were equal. I told him to have a good day, and I meant it. He has a mother somewhere who taught him to wave at buses. Daniel called that night, his voice full of hallway echo. Mom, he said, the bank called me. I thought they might. I said, why didn't you tell me? 'Cause I wanted to say it when I could see your face. Are you angry with me? No. I could have said I was angry with something larger and older than him, with a staircase that called itself a room. But he was my boy. I am building a lesson. Come tomorrow. Bring Caroline. I'll make stew. They came to my kitchen like a storm that didn't want to be named. Carolyn's hands were tight on her purse. Daniel looked at everything but me. I set bowls on the table and folded napkins, like I was ironing the moment. Stopped paying the mortgage, I said. No lipstick on it. Paid it to the dollar for as long as I believed my help was respected. Then your mother-in-law told me I was in T, your class. She was not talking about forks or wallpaper. She was talking about worth. Caroline flushed like the first bruise a pear gets. She didn't mean. She meant every syllable. She said them with practiced ease. Silence sat down with us. The stew let off a little steam like a sigh. Daniel rubbed his face. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were paying so much? You never said? That S because I was raised right. You help because you can, not because you want claps. But help is not a collar. I want to be told to be grateful for what I built. Carolyn's eyes filled. I am pregnant, she blurted, then covered her mouth as if joy was a secret she had betrayed. I put down my spoon. The room sharpened. Then I will knit twice as fast. But I will not buy your place in a world that cannot say thank you without choking. Carolyn started to cry the way women cry when they've been holding something heavy for too long. My mother, she has a way of arranging a room and the people in it. She says she is protecting me. Sometimes it feels like being wrapped in cellophane. Please, Dan, punish Daniel for her. I am correcting a weight that has been badly placed, I said. I am putting the heaviness back on the shoulders that chose it. I looked at Daniel. You can afford this house without me if you sell a corner of yourself each month. I do not recommend it. He stared at his hands like they had become unreliable. I thought I was protecting you. I asked for your name on the mortgage because I knew you would be perfect on paper. I told myself you wanted to. I told myself a lot of things. I reached across and took his fingers. I have the kind of hands that remember laundry and hot pans and babies with fevers. I wanted to help you into a home, I said. I did not want to help you into a pretending. There was a knock on my door like something rehearsed. Evelyn stood on my porch, pearls in place, smile fine-tuned. The rain decorated her coat with etiquette. She stepped in without waiting, which told me everything. I can fix this, she said, as if the problem was a wrinkle in a dress. Ruth Ann, I'll reimburse you for your expenditures. We can handle future payments within the family. You don't need to be involved further. It's better for all concerned. I am family, I said. The words sat down in the room and folded their legs. And you have mistaken my courtesy for consent. She laughed softly. That newscaster sound. Let us be practical. I am the only practical person in this room, I said. And I meant the walls and the stove and the window too. I turned to Daniel and Caroline. You will need to make a choice. Big house, big performance, or smaller house, bigger sleep. If you choose small, I will help you set it up. If you choose big, I will not be your understudy. Evelyn opened her mouth to shape the word class, and I lifted my hand without looking at her. You have said your piece, I told her. Here is mine. Class is not a staircase. It's a table. At my table, there is room for only one kind of person, the kind who knows the difference between a chair and a throne. She left with all the grace money can buy and no warmth to go with it. The bank letters got bolder. The calls switched to words like foreclosure, which think they sound like thunder. We had a meeting at the bank where the carpet tried to tell me something important about taste. The banker used words like options and restructure with a smile that had a pillow behind it. Daniel had a pen in his hand and a line in his forehead that had never been there before he put that house on his back. You can sell, I said. Take the profit, buy a house that fits. Put the extra into a fund with your names on it. Live like real people and not like a magazine spread. Caroline looked at the floor. My mother will say we re-humiliating ourselves. Then let her say it from her own porch, I said. You can put your pride in a pie pan and feed a child with it. Ask me how I know. We walked out with papers we did not sign. The day was the kind that doesn't pick a side. On the sidewalk, Daniel stopped like his shoes were new to him. I feel like I've even pretending in a costume, he said. Then take it off, I said. It never fit you anyway. He laughed, one of those short, painful laughs. Can we stay with you, F? The house goes. You can always stay with me, I said, and meant it. If my bed is full, I will sleep in a chair. I know how weak, stretched thin like old elastic. The notice finally came like a storm that had been checking the radar. A yellow paper on the door, official and ugly. Henry, 3 and stern, asked if the house was mad. Houses Dante get mad, I told him, kneeling so my eyes and his were the same size. Houses tell the truth. Sometimes the truth is strong. He touched the paper with his little judge finger. Is it strong? It is, I said. But so are we. That night, Daniel S. Hart found a rhythm it didn't like. He sank to the kitchen floor and tried to breathe his way out of the bad music. People will tell you panic is a state of mind. It is also a body that forgot how to be a room. I rode in the ambulance with him and held his hand while the lights painted the world the color of emergency. In the ER, he told the nurse he had a mortgage and a mother, and he was failing both. You are failing neither, I said into his hair. You are shedding a jacket that never fit. While he rested, I took the elevator down to a place where money goes to not be seen. The night manager at the credit union knows my birthday. He knows the names of my children. He pulled up my accounts. I looked at the numbers I had kept, like good bread. Then I paid the arrears to stop the legal wheels from grinding over a man with wires on his chest. I did not tell anyone. Not because I wanted my halo to shine, but because kindness told me to keep the quiet. If you feed a child, you do not put a sticker on the sandwich that says, Hero, you. Butter it to the edges and cut the crusts and tuck it into their bag. When we brought Daniel home, he didn't go to Oak Ridge. He came to my house. Caroline packed a bag like a truce flag. She put Henry in his car seat with the concentration of someone defusing a bomb. They stayed in my spare room. My house sighed like a woman taking off heels after a long day. We fell into the simple rhythm old houses know best. Morning toast, kids. Underfoot pots that tell you when to stir. Evelyn called from a world where kitchens never smell like onions. If you move back in, she told Caroline, I'll cover the mortgage. You, Dante, have to live like this. Like what? Caroline asked. Like a family. Click. We listed the Oak Ridge showpiece. The realtor walked through our rooms like she was touring a museum. She told us to hide the toys and the struggle. We left the struggle out on the table like bread. The first offer was offensive. The second was cautious. The third was what you accept when you learn to love sleep. We sold with a handshake and the kind of sigh that has been waiting months in your throat to come out. The day we turned in the keys, the house was echo and shine. Henry ran through the empty rooms with that little kid run that thinks speed will make a bookmark of a place. I walked into the kitchen and put my hand on the counter. You were never mine, I told it. I was never yours. No hard feelings. We bought a house with a blue door and a yard that looked like it wanted kids. Columns. No. Lawn that needed to be ironed. The windows blinked in honest light. The mortgage fit Daniel's shoulders like a coat he chose himself. We looked at the numbers together. We left room for birthdays and winters and tires and the things that come wrapped in brown paper with breath inside. Evelyn did not speak to me for a year. She sent gifts for the children that had price tags, with exclamation points. Caroline wrote thank you notes that sounded like they had been graded by a teacher. Daniel learned to grill chicken that didn't dry out. He learned the rhythm of trash day. He learned what a Saturday feels like when you not pretending for anyone. I took turns with Rose S. life too. She grew into her artist hands. Bah! She moved into a studio with pipes. You could hear thinking. She painted a series of kitchens that looked like hearts. She fell in love with a woman named Juniper who laughed like rain on a tin roof. When they married, we ate lemon cake under a maple tree that dropped confetti on us without asking for thanks. Juniper's mother brought potato salad like a poem. Evelyn did not attend. The sky did not break. Then the call came that made me sit down on the edge of my bed. Evelyn had had a stroke. Carolyn S.'s voice was a pan put down too hard. She's asking for you, she said. I put on my coat and my calm. The hospital smelled like lemon and worry. Evelyn lay there in a bed that made her look small, her hair in a neat wave that didn't care about illness. Her left hand didn't follow orders. Her right hand found mine like a confession. I was wrong, she said. The words came out slow, tripped by a brain learning a new hallway about so many things. I looked at her face. I saw the girl she had been somewhere in that careful architecture. We are the same class now, I said gently. Mortal. A tear slid out from under her careful eyelash. You built. Comfort, she said. A ghost of our first argument in that you. I did, I said, and I gave it where I could. I took it away when it was insulted. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a hiccup of air. That party, I was showing off. You were labeling me, I said. You, Dante, have to apologize to me for all of it. Some of it belongs to your mother and her mother, and whatever man told them that worth was measured in forks. Can you forgive me? She asked. Forgiveness is not a balloon you let go of. It's a quilt. You sew it over time with small stitches. I can begin, I said. And I'll keep beginning each day. Caroline watched us with a face I wished I'd known 20 years earlier. We took Evelyn home to an apartment that smelled like new carpet. I came by on Tuesdays. I ironed her blouses the way my mother taught me to iron, with steam and love. I despised some of her sentences and loved the way she looked at my grandchildren. I did not stop by on the days when I had to choose between dignity and a casserole. Boundaries can be made out of kindness too. The years turn the way they always do, quietly and then all at once. Rose's hands got famous in small ways that pay the rent. Juniper opened a cafe where every muffin tasted like a solved problem. Daniel sent me photos of the blue door in every light. Caroline learned how to laugh when the plan changed. Henry grew into a young man whose eyes were rivers and whose shoulders were kind. A baby girl came, late and perfect, named June, because someone had been paying attention to the season of grace. Some evenings, I sat on my porch with the hydrangeas, drinking from the downspout like old times. I thought of Mama and her trembling signature. I thought of Frank's warm hands and the ladder and the way love is an unpaid bill that you mind. I thought of the evening I stopped paying a debt that turned out not to be mine. People told that story with different morals, depending on what kind of tea they drink. I just tucked it into my chest and let it hum there, a true thing that didn't need to be shiny. Henry came to see me the night before he left for college. He stood in my kitchen, taller than his father, and opened the cabinet under my sink like he was visiting a museum. He pulled out the old coffee can with the tape that still said tuition in my best handwriting. "You kept it," he said. "I keep everything that works," I said. He sat at my table and fiddled with the lid like a boy again. "You really stopped paying for Dad's big house?" "I did." "Were you scared of what?" I asked. "Losing them." I took his hand, that same judge's finger, now longer and tired. "I didn't stop paying to lose anybody," I said. "I stopped so I could see them. Pretend is a fog. I cleared enough of it for your father to find the door. Sometimes love hands you a broom." He nodded. His throat did that little jump men's throats do when they keeping their feelings where they think they belong. "Dad says that was the day he learned the difference between price and cost." "Your father's a smart man," I said. "He always was." He reached into his backpack and pulled out an envelope. It had a seal on it that meant something to the world. He pushed it across the table without talking. I opened it with hands that remembered babies and bank counters and good grief. It said he had a scholarship. Said someone who didn't know him had put money in a pot with his name on the ladle. "You won't have to take out loans," he said. "Not many, anyway. I know you have something saved and Dad has some, and I am proud of you," I said, not letting him turn the moment into math. He put his head down on the table like a small boy who had run all day. "I want to be the kind of person who pays people back," he said into the wood. "You are," I said. "Just don't try to do it with interest. Be kind, do your work, learn who you are. When you have enough, lift somebody. That's the only kind of paying back that works." He lifted his head and looked at me with eyes that made me ache in the sweetest way. "Grandma," he said, "why do you keep telling us your stories?" Caroline watched us with a face I wished I had known 20 years earlier. We took Evelyn home to an apartment that smelled like new carpet. I came by on Tuesdays. I ironed her blouses the way my mother taught me to iron, with steam and love. I despised some of her sentences and loved the way she looked at my grandchildren. I did not stop by on the days when I had to choose between dignity and a casserole. Boundaries can be made out of kindness too. The years turn the way they always do, quietly and then all at once. Rose's hands got famous in small ways that pay the rent. Juniper opened a cafe where every muffin tasted like a solved problem. Daniel sent me photos of the blue door in every light. Caroline learned how to laugh when the plan changed. Henry grew into a young man whose eyes were rivers and whose shoulders were kind. A baby girl came, late and perfect, named June, because someone had been paying attention to the season of grace. Some evenings, I sat on my porch with the hydrangeas, drinking from the downspout like old times. I thought of Mama and her trembling signature. I thought of Frank's warm hands and the ladder and the way love is an unpaid bill that you daren't mind. I thought of the evening I stopped paying a debt that turned out not to be mine. People told that story with different morals, depending on what kind of tea they drink. I just tucked it into my chest and let it hum there, a true thing that didn't need to be shiny. Henry came to see me the night before he left for college. He stood in my kitchen, taller than his father, and opened the cabinet under my sink like he was visiting a museum. He pulled out the old coffee can with the tape that still said tuition in my best handwriting. "You kept it," he said. "I keep everything that works," I said. He sat at my table and fiddled with the lid like a boy again. "You really stopped paying for Dad's big house?" "I did." "Were you scared of what?" I asked. "Losing them." I took his hand, that same judge's finger, now longer and tired. "I didn't stop paying to lose anybody," I said. "I stopped so I could see them. Pretend is a fog. I cleared enough of it for your father to find the door. Sometimes love hands you a broom." He nodded. His throat did that little jump men's throats do when they keeping their feelings where they think they belong. "Dad says that was the day he learned the difference between price and cost." "Your father's a smart man," I said. "He always was." He reached into his backpack and pulled out an envelope. It had a seal on it that meant something to the world. He pushed it across the table without talking. I opened it with hands that remembered babies and bank counters and good grief. It said he had a scholarship, said someone who didn't know him had put money in a pot with his name on the ladle. You won't have to take out loans, he said. Not many, anyway. I know you have something saved and Dad has some, and I am proud of you, I said, not letting him turn the moment into math. He put his head down on the table like a small boy who had run all day. I want to be the kind of person who pays people back, he said into the wood. You are, I said. Just don't try to do it with interest. Be kind, do your work, learn who you are. When you have enough, lift somebody. That's the only kind of paying back that works. He lifted his head and looked at me with eyes that made me ache in the sweetest way. Grandma, he said, why do you keep telling us your stories? You will be told as you move through this world that there are classes. It is true, but not the way they say. There are only two classes that matter. The people who make rooms warmer and the people who make rooms colder. Be the first. If someone tells you that you are not their class, turn and say, my class is comfort builders. My class is chair pullers. My class is bridge keepers. Then make soup. When you have a choice between a big house with echoes and a small house with a table that remembers everybody's elbows, choose the small house. When you can't choose, sleep on the floor and know that I love you in every posture you have. If you ever feel unworthy, go to the river. It pulls at the shore without asking permission. It widens where it needs to. It doesn't worry about chandeliers. It knows one song, and it hums the best version of it. Be a river. Here is the last thing. Forgive people sooner than I did. It will not make you righteous. It will make you free. But if you need to hold someone as offense for a while until you understand what it cost you, that's allowed. Just don't let it grow into furniture. I have left keys for you. They open drawers and safes in days. Most of all, I have left you a story. Use it to fix a hinge. Use it to climb out of a window. Use it to open a gate. I put the letter back in the can and put the can back under the sink because good things hide in plain places. Then I sat on the porch. The hydrangea drank like it knew something. The river pulled and pulled. The sky didn't have to be blue to be true. Days later, when my breath decided it had written its last paragraph, I lay down with my hands on my chest the way I did in school for the pledge. Daniel sat on one side, Rose on the other. Carolyn held my feet like they were birds you could calm. Henry bent low, his hair falling into his eyes the way Frank's did when he fixed a radio. I have your letter, he said. Sounds like you. Good, I whispered. Then I did it right. What should I do when I forget? He asked, his voice already breaking on the future. Make soup, I said. Read the mortgage twice. Sign once. Keep a copy. And if anyone says you aren't their class, smile like a rafter and ask them if they've ever held a ladder for a man on a cold day. He laughed and cried in the same breath, which is the way a heart tells the truth. I closed my eyes to the sound. Later, when the house had learned the new quiet and the casseroles had arrived with love inside their foil. Henry went to the sink and pulled out the coffee can. He opened it with reverence. You should save 4 letters and babies. He read the words that were mine and then his. He touched the pearls and put them on his sister June for pretend, and she clapped and said she felt like a queen of kitchens. He went to the river and read the letter again to the water. The river didn't answer. Rivers don't. They just keep going. Years after, Carolyn sent me a bouquet and a note on my birthday. Though the address had changed and the mail knew new tricks by then, we have learned how to set a table, she wrote. We have learned how to keep a chair open. We have learned what class we are. On the wall of the local branch of the credit union, where they hand out the good pens. There is a photo of a smiling young man with judge eyes, handing a scholarship check to a girl whose hands look ready to build. Above them, it says, Ruth Weaver Scholarship for Work and Study. The picture is crooked sometimes. The clerk leans over the counter and straightens it with 2 fingers and a soft there, because it matters to get the angle right even when the words are already true. People still tell the story about the grandmother who stopped paying the mortgage. They like the part where the woman with pearls gets a lesson. They like the part where the big house gets sold. They like the part where the old woman says something sharp and sets down a spoon like she means it. Those parts are good. But the best part is small and not as shiny. It is a long table in a small house with elbows on it. It is a letter stored under a sink. It is a blue door and a hydrangea drinking rain and the sound of a family not pretending anymore.